Let's bring in our political editor, Andrew Clennell, now for some more on this. Andrew, we've been talking a bit about wage subsidies. You've got some information as to just what the government's thinking is on this, how it's going to be delivered.
Yes, hundreds of millions for small business is what I'm hearing, Kieran, that essentially that money's going to be shovelled out to small businesses with a threshold there, perhaps $50 million turnover a year, to allow them to keep on casual workers, I guess, to allow them to cope with sick leave and to allow them to keep jobs going while they're in financial trouble because of the coronavirus crisis. I mean, also being spoken about is the situation with cash handouts that we had in the Rudd era. That's seen as less likely, but it's certainly been on the table. And the Prime Minister's spoken about very targeted assistance, and certainly the tourism sector will be the subject of an announcement in the next couple of days before the big stimulus announcement around Thursday, Friday, that commitment to around $10 billion or just under as a first tranche, with a potential second tranche in the May budget, as I understand it, of stimulus measures to try and stave off recession. It's very interesting, as we spoke about last hour, Kieran, just how the language from the government has changed in terms of the size of this stimulus package and how much is required, and you can only assume might change again. Let's have a listen firstly to Scott Morrison just a couple of weeks ago when he announced that we were heading into our pandemic plan in relation to this crisis. Then we'll hear from Josh Frydenberg today.
If we are to take any actions here, and that is still subject to advice from Treasury, which have not confirmed their advice, that any such measures would only be effective if they were targeted, modest and scalable. And we are quite aware of where the virus is impacting in particular sectors more than others.
The Prime Minister has foreshadowed our economic response will be out shortly. That economic response will be substantial, it will be targeted, and it will be focused on supporting those people and those businesses that need our support through this period.
So from modest to now substantial, and the federal government wants the states to do their bit as well, don't they, Andrew? And that's another pressure point in some of the relations, particularly between the federal and the New South Wales government.
Yes, another federal New South Wales stoush. Some people in the federal government a bit distressed that Dominic Perrottet was still talking about a surplus just a week ago to them, and talking about the fact he didn't see any great need for stimulus in New South Wales. It appears the New South Wales Treasurer has changed his mind on that, although he was asked at a budget estimates hearing, I'm told, today at State Parliament around whether he'd put in any submission for any of the $10 billion, and he wasn't able to answer that or wasn't able to commit to that. It does seem a theme that we're going to see here of Scott Morrison not just producing the stimulus, Kieran, but really putting the onus on perhaps big business, certainly business, in terms of their casual workforce and so forth, and also the states to do their bit as well. You know, we saw Kevin Rudd during the GFC, and it was very much all focused on the federal government and what it was doing, and he obviously copped heaps later on that after a $10 billion and then a $42 billion package. This time, Scott Morrison, I think, will be putting up his $10 billion and maybe his second lot of $10 billion, but he'll be saying to other sectors, the private sector and the state government sector and even the local government sector, how about you do a bit for Australia as well? And that'll be a real feature in the next couple of months, I reckon.
Indeed, Andrew. And it's interesting how our discussion has gone from saving the surplus to now avoiding a recession.
Incredible.
Really, that's the fundamental political and economic question right now.
Incredible, isn't it? And so if you're fair income about those budget numbers, you're not only having a non-surplus in 1920, back in black mugs all thrown out, you're not having it in the, at least the next 2 years either, certainly the following year. So, I mean, yeah, how quickly things can turn on a virus. And, they were going to get hammered over this surplus. Labor is still trying, but good luck with it. People are very focused on coronavirus. If ever there was an excuse for not a surplus, this is the case. The recession, well, that's a different matter altogether. And that's why this is the ultimate test of Scott Morrison's prime ministership. Does he put enough stimulus in? Does he put it in the right areas? He's made it he's made it clear that he's relying on the advice of the bureaucrats with how he's handling this, but when it comes down to it politically, he won't be able to handle the bureaucrats. Here's his test next couple of months. Be fascinating to watch.
It really will be. It's so pivotal for his prime ministership for the nation.